My name's Lauren. I'm a physician assistant, obviously. I went to KU, so rock chalk, yay, go boys. That was such a fun week last week. I'm so jealous of you guys that you guys got to celebrate. Literally so jealous. I was in my apartment here in Wichita and I had to work the next morning at 6. And so it was like 10 o'clock at night and I'm like screaming in my apartment by myself. But anyways, so yeah, I'm PA. I went to KU, so I was actually part of the pre-PA club. I was the secretary, and along with Elise Space, if you guys listened to her talk, she's one of my friends from college. And so yeah, I graduated in 2019. So I don't know if you guys want me to talk about like my stats. I know I sent like a little document to Anna. I don't know if she sent it out to you guys or not, but just kind of like my admission or application statistics. So I had a 3.65 GPA, I think total cumulative, and then my science GPA was a 3.7. I was an exercise science major and I minored in Spanish, and then took like a lot of obviously all the pre-PA recs. And then yeah, I applied to 5 different schools. I got 3 interviews. I got an interview I applied at University of Indiana. What was the other one? Oh, University of Nebraska Medical Center in Omaha and Wichita State. And out of those 3, I got rejected from Indiana. I got a wait list at Nebraska, and then I was accepted to Wichita State. So I got one, but the other 2 schools that I had applied to, I didn't hear, but I got back, like they told me late, like, oh yeah, you're rejected. I'm like, okay, whatever. So yeah, and then I worked as a CNA, so that was like my healthcare experience. As you guys probably know by now, you have to have like paid healthcare experience to get into PA school. I only had maybe like, I think I was looking back, it was like 750 hours, which I know it sounds like a lot to some people, but like, I mean, on the grand scheme of things, you know, people have like thousands of hours. It's crazy. But, you know, being a full-time student, it's definitely harder to get those hours. And I got my CNA as a freshman, and I worked in a nursing home just on the breaks when I was able to. And then my senior year, or was it junior year, senior year, I was working for one of my friends actually, who's a quadriplegic. I was kind of like his like CNA. And yes, that's pretty much like my paid healthcare experience. And then I also was an anatomy lab TA. So shout out if any of you guys are in an anatomy lab with, I don't know, is Professor Gonzalez still there? Is he still there? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
he's like, he oversees like the PA club. So like, that's who I
Oh,
go.
he does.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. He's wonderful. He did one of my rec letters, I think, actually, for PA school. So yeah, he's great. So that was like one of my like more involved things. I was in a sorority at KU as well. And I'm trying to think what else. Oh, volunteer hours. Gosh, I'm just rambling. So let me know, guys, jump in if you have any questions. I'm just kind of going over.
It helped.
Okay. Volunteer hours. I volunteered in the ER a little bit at Stormont Vale. I wasn't able to do it very long, but I did it a little bit, which is one of the hospitals in Topeka. And so I did that a little bit. And then just like with my sorority, we had various just like events to volunteer with. I definitely had something I probably could have bumped up more on my application. I didn't have a ton of volunteer experience, but you know, you can only do so much when you're a full-time student. And then I shadowed both like doctors and PAs. I'm sure you probably could shadow nurse practitioners as well. I think it's probably a good idea. Honestly, I think definitely shadow obviously PAs, but I think if you can shadow couple of different professions, that kind of gives you a clearer idea of like, you know, I don't want to be a doctor because of X, Y, and Z, or, you know, I don't want to do nurse practitioner, I want to do PA. You know, I feel like that's just something you can talk about in your interview. Because for me, when I was shadowing a doctor, that's actually how I found out that I didn't really want to be a physician. I was shadowing a couple of different physicians that were specialists, and I was just like, their appointments are literally like 3 minutes long, and it was so fast in and out, and just all, you know, the length of schooling, all that. And so I ended up researching the PA profession, and that's how I decided to go the pre-PA route. But yeah, I think that's most of what I did when I was applying. I submitted my CASPA in July of 2018. So I don't know what year of school you guys all are, but it's super weird. Like, it was my junior year. It's like the summer after my junior year is when you have to submit your application. Because then by the time senior year rolls around, you'll start getting your interviews. And then in the spring, you'll hopefully know if you're going to PA school or not. So it's kind of a long, drawn out process, unfortunately, but that's just kind of like the way it is. And so I went to PA school. I got into Wichita State, like I said, right after. I literally started like 10 days after I graduated from KU. It was psychotic. I don't know if I recommend that. But yeah, I mean, if you so lots of people take gap years, that's super normal. I mean, majority, I'd say like the average age in my class is probably like 27. There was people in their 40s in my class. There was people my age. There was girls who were younger than me in my class, actually, who took like finished college in 3 years and went to PA school. I'm like, that's insane. You can like barely legally drink and you're like in PA school. But yeah, it's like kind of what comes to mind. Do you guys have any like specific questions over kind of like what I've talked about, or like anything else I can like clarify? Or if you have questions about like Wichita State in general, or about like the application process, CASPA's, it sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks. There's nothing I can really say other than that. It just sucks, and be on top of it early.
Yeah. So how far in advance did you start writing your personal statement?
Yeah. So I guess like looking at that year, so 12 is it 2018? Yeah, I started my application. I would say I started my personal statement. Oh, I probably started looking at it more like February, March, because I think this Casper opened in April. I think it's when it usually opens. Yeah.
Like the 28th.
Yeah, and I knew I wasn't gonna, and also this is another thing you have to consider is if you're applying to schools that do rolling admissions.
Mm-hmm.
So I was not applying to any schools that do rolling admissions. And if any of you guys don't know what that is like some schools, they do priority based off like how early you submit it. So like the sooner you submit it, the priority that you get. None of mine cared. It was just like submit by like August 1st or September 1st, I think is when they were due by. But anyways, that's why I started looking at it February, March. Definitely reach out to your like people who are doing your rec letters early, because they forget and like you have to remind them multiple times. And yeah, so I would say like definitely by the time, May rolls around, April, May, I would say contact your people before CASPA opens for sure, just to like confirm that you have them, if they're willing to write you a rec letter. Give them a couple of months, like in your mind, have a date, maybe like when you want to submit your application, and give them like 6 weeks to get it done. It doesn't take that long, but like I said, people are busy, people forget, and so that way you don't have to like bother them hopefully too much. So yeah, I started doing that, and then I took the GRE in like May. Yeah, I think I took it in May, which was stupid. It's the dumbest test ever.
Yeah, like did you study a lot for it? Or I take it May 21st, so
do some schools still require it?
Yeah, like most of them do. And there's like a new PA CAT, but that's like very
tragic.
Very few schools require that.
Yeah, I think that's ridiculous. Like it's basically the MCAT, isn't it?
Yeah.
Psycho. Yeah. So not really. Did I get a book? Yeah, I got just like a GRE book like off of Amazon. I just honestly reviewed, like I didn't even try to learn the vocabulary. I was like, there's a million words. I'm not gonna because from what I understood from when I was applying is that most schools you just need like an average score. Yeah. And I don't think it's like weighed that heavily in your application. I think it's like one of those check the box kind of things. So I reviewed like geometry, because I was like, I haven't taken geometry since freshman year of high school. Like, I don't know what a 60, 30, 90, so I reviewed geometry and I think like the math stuff. And then I think I practiced like writing out essays just for like the timing of things, but I wouldn't spend too much time on it, honestly. Yeah. It's like the ACT, like.
Yeah, it's kind of just like if you know it or not.
Yeah. Exactly. It sucks. Like the timing, yeah, it's not fun, but I got an average score, and it's ironic because Wichita State was the only school that didn't require the GRE, and that's the one that I got into. So I was like, nice, but
of course
it is what it is. So, yep.
And then, okay, I have one more question about Wichita State. Yeah. So do you know do you have to finish all of your prereqs before you apply for PA school, or can you, do you know if you can finish? Because I haven't taken genetics. So I didn't know if I have to take it before I apply, or if I can take it before I
No, yeah, you're fine. I think I think you can take it afterwards, because yeah, you definitely can apply and then say that you're taking this class. Okay. They actually don't even require like a verification. I remember, I think I had one class too. I think I was taking like biochemistry, or I don't really remember, but yeah, you can apply and then say it'll ask you what credits you're going to take next year. Because yeah, your application, you submit it the end of your junior, you apply kind of early on. And so yeah, they're fine with you doing it after you apply, as long as you just say that, yeah, I'm taking this my spring semester or whatever, and then you'll just submit your final transcripts once you finish undergrad. So yeah, you'll be good.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions for Lauren?
I have a question.
Yeah,
How did you decide which schools you wanted to apply to?
great question. I think for me it was mostly like location. I think was probably the most important. Like I didn't want to go super far away. Second thing was pretty much what schools do I qualify for? A lot of schools require like 1,000 hours of healthcare experience. Some require 2,000 hours. So that automatically kind of, I was like, there's no way I'm gonna get 2,000 hours in by the time I finish college. So I think those are kind of the two main things, is because I mean, I didn't qualify for, and then some schools too, you have to look at what year are you? Are you like a freshman, sophomore, junior?
I'm a senior, so I'm gonna take a gap
You're
year.
Okay, cool. Yeah, good for you. Yeah. Enjoy your time off. But yeah, like also definitely look at the prereqs, because every freaking school has different prereqs. Like, and do you want to have to take more, some schools may require child development, and like, do you want to have to take another class just to apply to that one school? I applied to 5. I think the average is like 7. It was also like a money thing. I was like, I don't want to spend like thousands and thousands of dollars on applying. And also that they were like accredited and stuff. So I don't know if you guys know, like Wichita State went through a weird like accreditation thing. They've been accredited this whole time. They just got like kind of like a slap on the wrist because of like the way they submitted some documentation. I also don't totally understand it, but we're fully accredited again, and like it's fine. And I think I also wanted to go to a school that wasn't like brand new. Like I didn't want to be like the first class, because I didn't really want to be like the guinea pig. Not hating on like K-State, but like if I was applying, I probably would just maybe wait a year or two and like see how it goes. So that answers your question, but honestly, I think looking back, and a lot of people might say the same thing, is just like, you're gonna graduate with the PA degree. Nobody really cares where you got it from. Unless you maybe want to go like Harvard or Yale or somewhere cool like that, like good for you. But like, I mean, I think at the end of the day, as long as you have the degree is all that really matters. So some schools are way more expensive than others. Wichita State is super cheap compared to other ones. That's one thing I will say for sure, is I'm glad I went to a cheap school, because there's schools that cost 3 times the amount, but they have the same degree that I do, So yeah, it's kind of a roundabout answer, but hopefully I kind of basically location and which ones I qualified for when I was wanting to apply. So
I have a question.
Yeah.
I see that you work in neurocritical care now. I've done some shadowing in like primary care, and I work in a pediatrician's office right now. So I was just wondering if you could walk through like your day-to-day, what you really do, and like what it's like as a PA in that field.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's awesome. You're working in a clinic setting. That's awesome. It's a lot of PAs work in the clinic setting. So I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was getting out of PA school. I applied to a bunch of jobs. I wasn't hearing back because I was a new grad, and you know how that goes. So anyways, I was offered this job, and my friend actually got a job offer through, and they were hiring more PAs. And so I got an interview with them, and then I was like, I shadowed, because I was like, I actually don't even understand, like what is neurocritical care? Like, what do you do as a PA? So I shadowed there for a while, like a little bit, to make sure I was like cool with what the job entailed. But anyways, to answer your question, so I work 12-hour shifts, so 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. most of the time. And then I work a couple night shifts a month, like 2 to 3, which would be 6 p to 6 a. And so I usually get there right at 6, and the night shift PA is coming off. And so there's usually 2 or 3 of us during the day that are working that are PAs. And so we get a report from the night shift person, anything acute that went over with our patients, anything new, any new admissions. And then I usually look up the patients for about an hour or so on my computer, looking at labs, imaging, our consults, any notes written by other consultants, make sure anything that's like critical needs to be addressed. If a patient's like not doing well, I usually go to the patient's bedside. But yeah, so look up the patients, I get breakfast, that's always a priority. And then around like 9 o'clock, we round with one of our physicians. and he's a neurointensivist. So he is a neurologist, but did a fellowship in neurocritical care at Mayo. So he's like super specialized. And so we round on our patients, which basically means we just go patient by patient and present basically all the systems of the patient to the doctor, you know, overnight events, you know, neuro, cardio, respiratory, GI, renal, infectious disease, everything. So in neurocritical care, we do things that are, you know, patients who are really sick from like a brain perspective, typically. So like big strokes, big brain bleeds, brain abscesses, brain masses that have been removed. If somebody gets TPA, which is like a thrombolytic you get if you have a stroke, we manage them or like after that infusion. And so we also manage all the systems. So we don't just manage just the brain, we manage all the ICU needs. So we manage the ventilator, if they're on a ventilator. So it's a lot. It's definitely like a lot of on-the-job learning. And so yeah, we go on rounds and show everything with the doctor, come up with a game plan for the day, talk to the family if we need to. And then usually go back to my office and put in orders and chart for the rest of the day, which sounds kind of crazy. Like, wow, what do you do for 12 hours? That's like a lot of time just to be charting. Well, you get nursing phone calls, you have to call the case manager, physical therapy, occupational therapy, and then we're also the stroke team. So we kind of wear two hats. I have the neurocritical care hat, and then if there's ever a patient who comes into the ER or who's in the hospital already that has stroke-like symptoms, they'll call a stroke alert. And so we're the, you know, first responders basically for that. And so we go in and we evaluate the patient, their stroke symptoms. We go through what's called an NIH stroke scale. And it's kind of like a standardized physical exam that we do on a patient to evaluate for a stroke. And we kind of are the facilitator for getting the scans done. So if they need a CT of their head, an angiogram, whatever. And then we also have a neurologist who actually the neurology team that we talk to for strokes is in Denver. It's like a remote thing. They're on call all the time. And, you know, I'm like, hey, I'm Lauren with the stroke team. I have this patient here, yada, yada, yada. And they give the recommendation whether, you know, we need to admit the patient or if we should give them TPA. If we think that there's a stroke, we should give them the clot busting medicine. So yeah, those sometimes can cause your day to be really busy too, because you have your patients up in the ICU that are really sick sometimes. Then you also have stroke alerts to attend to. So yeah, and you just do that for 12 hours. Sometimes it's 13, 14 hours. And sometimes we round again in the afternoon if our patients are pretty sick. The doctor will go through the patients again around like 4 o'clock. And then at 6 o'clock, the night shift person comes on and we tell them what we did and, you know, sign our notes. And that's it. That's a lot. It's definitely a lot. It's a lot of on-the-job training, for sure. I'm constantly looking up stuff, reading stuff. I just have really good coworkers who have worked in neurocritical care for a while, and so they've been training me really well. I feel like they are really good at teaching. So does that kind of answer your question?
Yes, sounds very fast-paced, but very interesting. So
it is, and it can be slow too. I mean, there's days where it's like there's no stroke alerts and we have like 3 patients and we're just, but I was just texting my friend who's working right now and he's like, we just had 2, you know, thrombectomies, which I didn't know what thrombectomy was before, but you know, people go for like a cardiac cath, they can go through like your radial artery here, and like if somebody has a heart attack, they can get rid of the clot. Well, they can do that with strokes now. So you go through the groin up into the brain and you take the clot out. Not me, obviously. It's a neurointerventionalist, a different physician. And so they had like 2 patients who got those. They had a new like subarachnoid hemorrhage and a new seizure patient and all this stuff like within like 2 hours. And it's just, sometimes it can be super busy and the patients are really sick. And so yes, it definitely can be stressful. But yeah, I mean, it just kind of depends what you like. And I definitely liked the clinic too. So I was really open to working wherever I could get a job. I just didn't want to do, I knew I didn't want to do dermatology. I had a rotation in derm. I just thought it was so boring, but that's just me. Some people love it and that's great. And what else did I not want to work in? I don't know. I found things that I liked. I mean, I liked my psych rotation a lot, but I just couldn't see myself doing it like every day. But anyways, all that being said, it's kind of, I feel like when you go through clinicals, you can kind of figure out like what you like and what you don't like. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Oh,
Sorry.
No, you're good. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just kind of gonna ask like for an overview of what clinical year kind of looks like and
Yeah.
how you go through like all the specialties or do you get to like pick or how does that work?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously I can only speak for Wichita State, but I think it's kind of standard across like all schools. You have to do, yeah, basically all specialties. I think there's 8 core ones that you have to do. So it's like family medicine or like primary care, pediatrics, OBGYN, psychiatry, emergency medicine, internal medicine, and behavioral medicine. I think and general surgery. So you have like 8 that you have to have every school. And so with those 8, you actually have an exam that all PA students have to take at the end of every rotation for those 8. So like you have an exam, it's called your family medicine exam. Then you have like your pediatric exam. So it tests like your competency in those core 8 fields. So it's kind of cool. I feel like that's another reason why I think PA is really awesome, is just because you do get to like dip your feet into like pretty much 8 like main specialties. And learn a lot about those. And then usually most schools like allow some electives. So Wichita State, you get 2 electives. And so one of my electives, I had like a GI rotation, which I really loved. It was actually in Lawrence's at LMH. It was one of my favorite rotations. And yeah, so yeah, I can't speak for every school, but you're kind of like a little nomad for 12 months. You are sent all over. So, I mean, I lived in the hospital in Coffeyville, Kansas. I had rotations in Wichita. I had some in Kansas City, where I'm from, Lawrence, Topeka, Holton, Kansas, Lee Summit, Missouri. But yeah, they have rotations everywhere, like middle of nowhere, Kansas. Sometimes you have to go to, which they can sometimes be really fun. Like I love my rotation in Coffeyville, which I didn't know where Coffeyville was before then, but it's like 3 hours south of Kansas City, kind of close to Oklahoma. But it was super fun, like being in like a small town, because the doctor who I was with for my rotation, he was a family medicine physician by training, but he also did a lot of peds, and he also delivered babies, and he also like helped in C-sections. So that's something that's kind of cool in like small towns. Like you get to do a little bit of everything because they don't have as many specialty doctors. So yeah, it was exhausting, not gonna lie. I mean, it also just depends like where you're at. Like some places, like maybe you'll have a lot of rotations like in the same city, and that's great. I was able to live at home for a lot of rotations. Like when I had some in Kansas City, I just got to live at home with my parents. Or like I had friends who still lived in Lawrence, and I lived there for a couple of rotations. And so yeah, I mean, it's just, you just have to be really flexible and yeah, make sure your family knows it's kind of a hectic year, but it's definitely way better than the first year. First year PA school is really tough. The second year is tough, but for different reasons. I think it was more like emotionally tough because you're traveling all the time and you're constantly in a different city. But it's way more fun because you're like hands-on and you're learning. And yeah. Is there anything else you had questions about clinical year, or did that kind of answer your question?
I don't think so. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Clinicals are fun.
So with clinicals, like,
Mhm.
do you find your place where you want to do it, or do they like, how does that work?
Yeah, so Wichita State has it all set up already for you. And most schools do. And that's another thing, like I think it sucks because like nurse practitioner programs, they have to all find their own rotations. And I'm like, that sucks. Cause like it's already hard enough to find people to shadow these days. Like I feel like it was really hard for me to even find people to shadow, let alone like do a full on like clinical rotation. But nope, Wichita State already has it all set up. You just like preference location. I think what we did, we preference location, and then like each specialty, like out of the core 8, you gotta like preference which ones you wanted. I mean, obviously you don't get every single one that you preference, but you get some. And so yeah, they're to do it all for you, which is really nice. You don't have to find them. I think if you have like a rotation, like if you know like a doctor or a PA who like personally and that would take you as a student, you can also suggest that to them. And so yeah, you can do that as well. I think I had a friend who did that for like a ortho rotation. She knew an orthopedic surgeon, and so she set that up herself. But yeah, it's nice. You don't have to worry about finding it yourself.
Yeah. What does it look like post PA school? So like once you graduated from PA school, like what were your steps?
Yeah, so I finished school, like clinicals, I finished this last July, so July 2021. And so then, if you guys have you guys heard of like the PANCE? So the PANCE is the Physician Assistant National Certification Exam, and that's the exam that you have to take to be a certified PA. So I took that, let's see, I finished clinicals like the end of July. I think it was like 2 weeks later, I took the PANCE. And so I did a review course, an online review course. Me and some of my friends paid for like an online review course, and we did that. So study for the boards, which is the PANCE, same thing. And then took my test, and I said a prayer, and I passed somehow. And then yeah, I'd already accepted a job. So some people start job hunting like during PA school, like towards like the end of clinical year. I started looking for jobs like that summer, and this job opportunity came up, and so I took it. And yeah, so I passed the PANCE. So I could officially accept I accepted my job verbally, but that way I can be like, yeah, I actually passed my boards and I can start. And then I moved to Wichita in September, and then I started working in October, and that's pretty much it. So some people take more time off. I had people in my class who took the PANCE and then they just needed a break, and so they waited a couple of months to take a job. That's great. Some people started working right away. Just with the way my job works, just with like paperwork and licensing and all that stuff. That's another thing. I can't even. Getting you to get your license, you have to like get your DEA number, which costs like $1 million. Not really, but it was like $800 just to like.
Oh, God.
It's a lot of money. You have to pay to take the boards. You have to pay however many $100 to take the boards, and then your license costs a couple $100 with like the state of Kansas or whatever state that you're applying for. So I think if like you're in Kansas City, some people do like a Missouri and a Kansas license. I don't know. I can't speak to that, but that, and then you got to get your DEA number so you can prescribe drugs, and then I think that was pretty much it. But then like, all my paperwork for the hospital that I work for. So that stuff, it just is annoying, but you got to do it, and it costs a lot of money, but it pays off. You end up making money at your job, so it's great. But yeah, nobody knew what we were doing. We're like, how do we apply for our state license? Like, we don't know. I mean, Wichita State kind of helped us with it, but there was a lot of like it's just anything that you do with like the government takes forever. And so applying for our license took a long time, and just getting registered and all that stuff. So, but yeah, and then now I just work.
Did you guys like have any breaks during PA school? Like, or is it just like a full 2 years?
During didactic year, so didactic's like the first year PA school, we had a winter break. I think that was it. I don't think we had a spring break. I know we had a spring break. We did have a spring break, and that's when COVID hit, and that was terrible, obviously.
Yeah, how was that for you guys? Like, were you still in school, or were you virtual?
So yeah, so we were in school at Wichita State. Most PA schools are all in person, and so it was, we go to school like every day, and then we heard this COVID thing. We're like, oh, it'll be fine. So I think we were online for a little bit, and then I was supposed to still have classes that summer of 2020, and they put them all online. So I got rid of my lease here in Wichita, like to save money, and I moved home with my parents, and so I was basically doing like Zoom university like everybody else, which was not ideal, because I mean, it's one thing, I'm sure, like doing college classes online and just kind of you can like blow them off, but it was actually really stressful because like this is actually information that I need to know, and like it was super hard to focus like on my computer all day. I mean, I'm sure you guys can all relate. I can't imagine being in college with COVID either. Had been terrible. But and then it caused our clinicals to be delayed for like a month, because the sites are trying to figure out what they're going to do with students. And I think so the class above me, they were on clinicals at the time, and they had to be taken off clinicals for like over a month, and they had to like sit at home, which sucked. And because they at that point they're like, we can't have any extra people, we can't have students at the hospitals or whatever. So yeah, hopefully none of you guys have to go through a pandemic again and deal with that, because it wasn't fun. But yeah, I mean, it was unfortunate and it sucked, but like at least my clinicals weren't like that affected. Like I just had to start like 3 weeks or a month late. So
cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, does anybody else have any other questions? You pretty much covered everything, so.
I know. I just feel like I talked a lot. I'm like,
no, I enjoyed it.
Okay, good. I'm like, hopefully I answer everybody's questions. I talk a lot, but I'm like, hopefully I'm answering your questions. But Yeah, PA is awesome. It's really hard. I still can't believe like I don't know. I still can't believe it's like I'm talking to the pre-PA club. I feel like I was you guys just yesterday. So time flies.
Yeah.
Enjoy your time off if you take time off before you apply. And yeah, hopefully you guys will all go and you'll be accepted and it'll be great.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well,
Where are you guys applying? Are you guys, who's applying this year? Is anybody, you're applying, Anna?
yeah, I am.
Where are you applying?
So I'm gonna apply to Wichita State. I'm kind of going like all over the place. There's like Berry
Cool.
University in Florida,
Oh, cool.
Midwestern in Arizona.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trying to think. Oh, there's like a school in Massachusetts I'm applying to because I have family in Boston. So like
Oh,
living
cool.
situation, save money, that kind of thing. So,
Yes.
but so yeah, kind of just like 5 schools right now that I've found.
Nice. It's awesome. I know. See, that's what's cool. There really is a PA school like in any state.
Yeah.
If you ever wanted to go somewhere cool. Yeah.
My parents live in Overland Park, so
Yeah.
Wichita was really the only in-state one. So
I know. And so same here. My parents are I'm from Overland Park. And so there's actually at Wichita State, it was kind of crazy. There was a decent amount of out-of-state people at Wichita State. There was one of my good friends, he's from California, I got people from Minnesota, Wyoming, Oklahoma. I was kind of surprised.
yeah.
But yeah, and you make a lot of friends. Honestly, I loved PA school too. I made like amazing friends. I mean, it was really hard, but I liked it because it wasn't like super, at least with my class, I can't speak to other classes. I think some classes can be competitive, but my class, nobody was competitive with each other. We were all just like trying to help each other, and we shared Google Drives and Google Documents. And I mean, I wouldn't have made it through PA school if it wasn't for my classmates. Like we really had to do it all together. And so I feel like we made the most of it because it's hard.
Yeah.
But it's worth it.
I've like started to get like the anxious, like anxiety feeling of like, I've kind of already accepted the fact that I probably won't get accepted in my first round because it's really like.
You never know, dude. I was so average. I mean, you heard me telling my stats. I was so like average. Like I feel like I was not super spectacular, but somehow, I mean, sometimes if you just can get the interview, I feel like that's probably what helps me more than was my numbers, you know?
For sure. Yeah.
And some interviews are weird. Not everybody, like in Nebraska, it was not like an interview like this. It was like multiple mini interviews. I don't know if anybody cares about this, but it was like 12 doors and each door had like a prompt on it. And it was like, you have to, I can't even say like, oh, like I had to explain to somebody how to play tic-tac-toe without talking, or like, it would be like ethical situations. And like, there's like a patient actor and like asking me to like refill their opioid prescription. I'm like, what the heck? I was like, I don't know anything. I'm like, I don't know how this works yet. That's why I'm going to PA school. Yeah. And yeah, so Nebraska was weird. But Wichita State was chill. It was just like talking to a couple different people, but yeah. So anybody else applying this year and have questions about CASPA or anything? It's probably changed since I did it, but
yeah, it's like, I mean, I know a lot of people already kind of opened theirs and started like stuff in, but
yeah,
it's like, it is what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah. I mean, I think the hardest part is just keeping track of like what school requires what, because some requires 2 letters of rec, some require 4, some require, so that's even, yeah, for you who are younger, definitely find what schools you're interested in and like write out what the requirements are, because they're all different and you want to make sure that you don't miss anything, because that would suck. So
all right, well, I think that covers kind of everything. So
yeah, for sure. If you guys have any questions, like I gave Anna my email, so feel free to reach out. Yeah, email me with any of your questions. So yeah, rock chalk. Thanks for letting me talk to you guys.
Good job and everything. That's awesome.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I literally don't know what I'm doing, so it's fine. It like sounds all nice and shiny, but I'm like, wow, I only cried twice at work. That's good. But no, I'm just kidding. It's great. But yeah, feel free to reach out if you guys have any questions or anything. So yeah, have a great week, guys. Thanks for letting me talk. Thanks, Anna.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Bye, guys.